Panahon na ng halalan,
madami namang kandidato, madaming mukha at pangalan.
Sino kaya ang bagay sa ating bansa? Hindi lamang forma at salita. Sino o sino kaya?
At sana kahit na sinong manalo, pagkatapos ng bilangan, sana naman ang panalo ay taong bayan.
Sino kayang mananalo at magiging totoo
sa pagnanais ng taong umunlad sa madaling panahon?
Sino man siya, pag-asa kaya ang dala.
Sana naman, sana siya'y tumira tapat sa bansa.
At sana kahit na sinong manalo, pagkatapos ng bilangan, sana naman ang panalo ay taong bayan. La 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 la. Sana naman isipin ang kapakanan ng mga mamamayan, maging gabay sa lipunan.
At sana kahit na sinong manalo, pagkatapos ng bilangan, sana naman ang panalo ay taong bayan.
Sana naman ang panalo ay taong bayan.
Kailan ka huling tumingin sa salamin na may ngiting nababakas sa iyong mukha? Naalala mo bang mga araw na di ka nangangamba para sa iyong pamilya? Kanya-kanya tayo ng pinagdaanan. Ang lahat ay pagod, ang lahat ay takot. Hanggang kailan tayo magtitiis? Magbubulag-bulagan hanggang kailan? Di kaya ito na ang pudya upang tayo ay kumilos. Lunod na ang ating bayan sa tindi ng mga unos. Bumangon na tayo, bumangon na tayo. Bagong umaga, naharapin bagong pag-asa. Nasa atin ay gigising tayong lahat. Ang siyang makikilabang sa ating pagbangon, sa ating pag-ahon. Bagong umaga na inaabangan, bagong pag-asa para sa ating bayan o Pilipinas. Handa Handa ka na ba kay Lenny?
Tinanong ng bata sa mga kawal kung bakit walang sino mang nagtatanggol sa Pilipinas. Nagalit ang kanyang mga kuya at sinabi sa kanya na alagaan ang mga tupa. Ngunit alam ng bata na ipagtatanggol ng Panginoon ang Pilipinas.
Kanya-kanya tayo ng pinagdaanan. Ang lahat ay pagod, ang lahat ay takot. Hanggang kailan tayo magtitiis? Magbubulag-bulagan hanggang kailan? Di kaya ito na ang hudya upang tayo ay kumilos. Lunod na ang ating bayan sa tindi ng mga unos. Bumangon na tayo, bumangon na tayo. Bagong umaga na inaabangan, bagong pag-asa para sa ating bayan, o Pilipinas. Handa ka na ba, o Pilipinas? Handa ka na ba kay Lenny? At sa bagong umaga,
Nagawa niyang tumulong sa kapwa, nagawa niyang mamuno sa tama. Nanindigan para kay Juan at kay Juan, laman ang isiping naglaban. Hangad niyang tayo ay mamuhay sa bansang ang lahat ay pantay. May karapatan tungo sa kaunlaran, handang maglingkod kailanman. Lenny Robredo, nagawa niyang lahat. May lakas, may galing at may pusong tapat. Lenny Robredo, ating pinuno, nagawa niyang lahat. Nagawa niyang ikaw ay turuan, buong pusong pinagsilbihan. Inangat ang lipunan, tinaas sa ating bayan, di tayo pinabayaan. Lenny Robredo, nagawa niyang lahat. May lakas, may galing at may pusong tapat. Lenny Robredo, ating pinuno, nagawa niyang lahat. Tumaan ang bagyo, di sumuko, pangiti sa matay, di naglaho. Tumindig, lumipad, taas ang noo, pag-asa ng Pilipino. Nagawa niyang lahat. Robredo, pinuno. Nagawa niyang lahat. Robredo, pinuno. Nagawa niyang lahat. Nagawa niyang lahat. Robredo, pinuno. Lenny Robredo, kami ay saludo. Nagawa niyang lahat.
Panahon na ng pagpili, panahon na ng halalan.
Madami mukha at pangalan.
Sino kaya ang bagay sa ating bansa? Hindi lamang forma at salita. Sino o sino kaya?
At sana kahit na sinong manalo, pagkatapos ng bilangan, sana naman ang panalo ay taong bayan.
Sino kayang mananalo at magiging totoo?
Sa pagnanais ng taong umulat sa madaling panahon. Sino man siya, pag-asa kaya ang dala. Sana naman, sana siya'y tumira tapat sa bansa.
At sana kahit na sinong manalo, pagkatapos ng bilangan, sana naman ang panalo ay taong bayan. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Sana naman isipin ang kapakanan ng mga mamamayan, maging gabay sa lipunan. At sana kahit na sinong manalo, pagkatapos ng bilangan, sana naman ang panalo ay taong bayan.
Sana naman ang panalo ay taong bayan.
Kailan ka huling tumingin sa salamin na may ngiting nababakas sa iyong mukha? Naalala mo bang mga araw na di ka nangangamba para sa iyong pamilya? Kanya-kanya tayo ng pinagdaanan. Ang lahat ay pagod, ang lahat ay takot. Hanggang kailan tayo magtitiis? Magbubulag-bulagan hanggang kailan? Di kaya ito na ang hudyat upang tayo ay kumilos. Lunod na ang ating bayan sa tindi ng mga unos. Bumangon na
Bert? Father Bert, please ano po, turn on your microphone. Thank you very much.
I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Sa ngalan ng Ama, ng Anak, at ng Espiritu Santo. Amen. Panginoon, sinabi mo na ikaw ang daan. Ituro mo sa amin ang tamang landas patungo sa iyo at patungo po sa lahat ng mga tinuturo mo sa amin. Panginoon, huwag mo kaming hayaang maligaw sa mga maling grupo, sa mga maling pangkat, sa maling kandidato. Samahan mo kami sa aming paglalakbay, lalo na kapag ganitong malubak ang daan at napakaraming pinagdadaanan ng aming bayan. At kung kami naman po ay minsan maligaw, akayin mo kami para makabalik uli sa tuwid na daan. Panginoon, ikaw ang katotohanan. Liwanagan mo ang aming isip at ang kalooban upang mapanindigan namin ang totoo at tama. Tulungan mo kaming labanan ang mga daya sa aming lipunan. Bigyan mo kami ng matibay na datos, good data, at mga good analysis. Analysis ng mga dokumento at mga papeles, ng mga batas. At sa pamamagitan nito, Panginoon, ilantad mo ang katotohanan. Lalo na ang mga pagnanakaw ng kabangyaman at ang mga paglabag sa mga batas. At kung kami po ay nalinlang, naloko, nadaya, liwanagan mo kami upang muling hanapin ang katotohanan. Magpadala ka sa amin ng mga propeta tulad ni Justice Carpio na magpapahayag ng totoo. Panginoon, sinabi mo rin na ikaw ang buhay. Patuloy mo kaming bigyan ng lakas ng katawan. Pagalingin mo ang mga may karamdaman. Damayan ang mga nahirapan. Itindig muli ang mga bahay. Pakainin ang nagugutom upang kami makaahon at makabangon. Bigyan mo rin ng kahulugan ang aming buhay, hindi lang lakas ng katawan, para mapalakas kami sa pakikibaka laban sa mga masasamang tao, laban sa mga diktador, laban sa mga kriminal, sa mga gumagawa ng illegal, laban sa mga pumapatay. At kung kami man po ay may nagawa pananakit sa kapwa, gawin mo uli kaming kasangkapan ng paghilom at pagpapalakas. Lord, in this forum, bless Justice Carpio and the whole team in our search for truth and the struggle to free us from all lies. Lord, you are the way. Don't leave us astray. Lord, you are the truth. Teach us to search for it and to fight for it. Lord, you are the life. Heal our pain in our body, in our family, in our society, and bless this forum. Amen.
Lupang hinirang po.
Bayang madilim, pelas ng silanganan, alam ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, tuyat ka ng magiting, sa manlulupi, di ka pasisingin, sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mong bakaw, may nilagang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal, ang kisag ng matawat mo'y tagumpay na nanininig, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may di manidinig, nung
Magandang araw po sa inyong lahat at Happy New Year! Bagong taon, bagong buhay, bagong pag-asa. Welcome po sa ating unang session ng Tapatan ngayong 2022. Kumusta po kayo lahat dyan? Kaway-kaway po sa ating mga health workers, doctors and nurses na patuloy na namang nakikipaglaban sa Omicron virus. Naku, dobleng pag-iingat po sa ang ating kailangan ngayon. Saludo po kami sa inyong lahat, ating mga frontliners. Good morning din po sa ating mga kapatid sa media at ang mga nagsusubaybay sa atin ngayon sa ating Facebook live feed. Happy New Year po sa inyong lahat. Sana po ay safe po tayo ngayon. Ngayon po, muli po na naman nating bubuksan ang Tapatan Media Forum ng Isang Bayan para talakayin ang maraming issue na dapat malaman at mapag-usapan ng sambayanang Pilipino. Sa ngayon po ay plano ng Isang Bayan na gawing regular ang ating pagtitipon at baka mapadalas ito habang nalalapit na po ang ating halalan ngayong Mayo. Okay, simulan na po natin. Ang ating paksa ngayong araw ay ang mga disqualification cases na inihain laban kay Marcos Jr. Kasama natin ngayon ang ating Isang Bayan lead convener at retired Supreme Court Associate Justice Antonio T. Carpio. Kasabay ang ating mga conveners na sina Attorney Javi Calleja at si Father Albert Alejo. Si Justice Carpio po ay nagsulat sa kanyang column na si Marcos Jr. daw po ay kailangan i-disqualify sa pagtakbo bilang presidente dahil sa kanyang tax evasion case kung saan siya ay nahatulang guilty. Sabi ni Justice Carpio, Marcos Jr. committed a crime involving moral turpitude that disqualified him from filing his COC or Certificate of Candidacy. Ano nga po ba ang crime involving moral turpitude? And should Marcos Jr. be disqualified from running for criminal conviction under the tax code? Friends, let us welcome retired Supreme Court Justice Antonio Carpio. Justice Tony?
Magandang umaga sa inyong lahat. Can you hear me?
Opo, we can hear you po.
Good morning to everyone. Thank you for attending this Tapatan of Isang Bayan on the issue whether Bongbong Marcos should be disqualified from running for president due to his criminal conviction under the tax code. The Court of Appeals decision dated October 31, 1997 ordered Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr., and I quote, to pay to the BIR the deficiency income taxes and to pay a fine of 2,000 pesos for each charge for failure to file income tax returns for 1982, 1983, and 1984, and a fine of 30,000 pesos for failure to file income tax return for 1985 with surcharges, end of quote. This CA decision became final and executory on August 8, 2001, when the Supreme Court granted BBM's or Bongbong Marcos's withdrawal of his appeal to the Supreme Court. Last November 2, 2021, a petition to cancel BBM's Certificate of Candidacy or COC was filed with the Commission on Elections under Section 78 of the Omnibus Election Code on the ground of material misrepresentation in his COC. BBM stated under oath in his COC that he was eligible to run for president when in fact he was not eligible to run because following his criminal conviction in 2001 for violation of the tax code, he was disqualified from holding public office under two separate and independent laws. The first law is Section 12 of the Omnibus Election Code, which provides that any person convicted of a crime involving moral turpitude shall be disqualified to be a candidate and to hold any public office. Such disqualification is removed after the expiration of a period of 5 years from service of sentence. If the penalty is only payment of reparation and fine, the convict is deemed to have served his sentence upon full payment of the reparation and fine. The second law is Section 253 of the Tax Code, which mandates that a public officer shall be perpetually disqualified from holding any public office, to vote, and to participate in any election if he is convicted of any crime penalized by this tax code. Because the law says any crime, it is immaterial whether or not the crime involves moral turpitude under the tax code. It is also immaterial if the rest of the sentence imposed by the court has been served, as the disqualification takes effect immediately upon finality of the judgment. The perpetual disqualification under Section 253 of the tax code takes effect immediately upon finality of the judgment of conviction, which in BBM's case took place on August 8, 2001, when the Supreme Court granted BBM's withdrawal of his appeal. In short, starting August 8, 2001, BBM was already perpetually disqualified from holding any public office, from voting, and from participating in any election. When BBM ran in 2007 and won as congressman, he was actually disqualified from running and from being a congressman. When BBM ran and won as senator in 2010, he was actually disqualified from running and from being a senator. In the answer that he filed on November 19, 2021, BBM did not state that he had paid the deficiency income tax, fine, and surcharges. In short, BBM did not allege in his answer payment of the deficiency income tax, fine, and surcharges. On the contrary, BBM claimed that the Court of Appeals order to pay the deficiency income tax was unclear. However, in the memorandum that he subsequently filed on December 20, 2021, BBM for the first time claimed that he had paid the deficiency taxes and fines on 27 November 2001. Nevertheless, BBM did not attach any receipt or proof of payment, and he did not formally offer any evidence or any document to establish that he had paid the deficiency taxes and fines on 27 December 2001. In short, BBM just claimed that he had paid the Philippine government but did not show to the COMELEC any proof of payment. On the other hand, the petitioners who filed the petition to cancel BBM's COC presented to the COMELEC the following documents. One, the certification issued by the clerk of court of the Quezon City Regional Trial Court. He's the overall clerk of court, Attorney Gregorio Talud, stating the certification stated, this is to certify that per verification with the records on file, this office has no record of any compliance payment of fine in criminal cases so-and-so entitled People versus Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. End of quote. Two, another certification was issued by Attorney Santo Tomas Bacud, the acting branch clerk of court of Branch 108 of the Quezon City Regional Trial Court that convicted BBM for tax evasion and non-filing of income tax return. This certification stated there is no record on file of one, compliance of payment or satisfaction of the decision of the Regional Trial Court dated July 27, 1995, or the Court of Appeals decision dated October 31, 1997. Two, entry in the criminal docket of the RTC decision dated July 27, 1995, as affirmed, modified by the Court of Appeals decision. End of quote. In short, there is no record at all on file with the Regional Trial Court of Quezon City that Bongbong Marcos paid the fine that he was ordered to pay by the Court of Appeals in its final decision. These two certifications are binding on the COMELEC. These certifications establish that BBM did not pay the fines and surcharges that were payable to the trial court by virtue of the final Court of Appeals decision. The fines are payable to the trial court, which is branch 108 of the Quezon City Regional Trial Court, and not to the Bureau of Internal Revenue. What is payable to the Bureau of Internal Revenue is the deficiency income tax. In conclusion, up to this day, up to today, BBM has not served his sentence under the Court of Appeals decision, which had become final on August 8, 2001. BBM remains a convict up to this day because he has not served his sentence. This means that BBM's disqualification under Section 12 of the Omnibus Election Code has not been lifted. In any event, BBM's separate and independent perpetual disqualification under the tax code, which took effect August 8, 2001, remains in effect up to this day and can only be lifted by a presidential pardon, and none has been issued to him. At present, today, BBM is still a certified convict who is disqualified to run for President of the Philippines, to vote, and to participate in any election in our country. Thank you, and good day to everyone.
Ayan po, mga kapatid, ang isang maliwanag na pahayag ng ating isang bayang lead convener, Justice Tony Carpio, tungkol sa ating issue ngayong araw. Meron po tayong mga napulot, no, ng mga bagay, ng mga lessons, ng mga issue sa speech ni Justice Carpio. Una-una po dito, meron po palang dalawang batas na na-violate si Marcos Jr. Ang Omnibus Election Code at ang Tax Code. At siya po ay dahil po sa pagkakakonvict niya, ay mayroon siyang crime involving moral turpitude at perpetual disqualification na hindi na siya pwedeng tumakbo sa public office. Okay? So ngayon po, meron po tayong mga tanong, Justice Tony. Pero bago po buksan natin ang ating open forum, pakinggan po ulit natin ang ating mga house rules. Para po sa mga katanungan, dalawang paraan lamang po ulit. Raise your hand at antayin pong tawagin ang inyong pangalan. O isulat po ang inyong mga katanungan sa ating chat box. Sa ating mga followers po at nanonood sa FB Live, please also post your comments sa ating comment box or comment section at babasahin din po natin ito. Okay? Ang una pong magtatanong sa atin, sa ating members ng media, meron na po ba? Meron din po tayong ngayong mga kasama po, no, ang ating mga conveners, Attorney Howie Calleja. Siya po ay abogadong nag-file din ng disqualification case kay Marcos Jr. At si Father Albert Alejo, isa rin pong human rights activist. Siya po ngayon ay nasa Roma, joining us also live from Rome. Okay? So, questions? The floor is now open po for questions. Siguro po, unahin po natin ngayon, isang Facebook follower po natin, Justice Tony. Ano daw po ba ang ibig sabihin ng moral turpitude or crime involving moral turpitude? At bakit daw po ang pagbabayad ng buwis ay isang crime involving moral turpitude? Thank you po.
The term moral turpitude has been defined by the Supreme Court as something that is contrary to good customs, contrary to conscience, contrary to morals. But the Supreme Court said whether it's moral turpitude or not, ultimately depends on what the Supreme Court determines. Because what is moral turpitude is a matter of circumstance. It's situational. It depends on the facts of every case. So this issue of moral turpitude of Bongbong Marcos will have to be decided ultimately by the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court said it depends on the circumstances of every case. So, but moral turpitude under Section 12 is just one ground. There is another ground under the tax code, under Section 253, which does not involve moral turpitude. It can be any kind of crime, whether involving moral turpitude or not. And this is even more severe because the disqualification is perpetual. In the Omnibus Election Code under Section 12, the disqualification is lifted 5 years after the service of sentence. 5 years after you pay the fine, if it is just a fine, you can run again. But under the tax code, where the crime need not be one involving moral turpitude, the disqualification is perpetual. So the moment the decision becomes final, convicting you, the disqualification takes effect immediately, perpetually. You can only be given back your civil and political rights if you are pardoned by the president. And as far as the case of Bongbong Marcos is concerned, there has been no pardon by the president. Thank you.
Thank you po, Justice Tony. Meron pa pong isang tanong from FB, from Facebook. Babasahin ko po lang po. Justice Tony, what do you expect the COMELEC to decide since it's taking them too long daw po to decide the case?
Well, the COMELEC, under Section 78 of the Omnibus Election Code, the COMELEC must decide petitions to cancel COCs within 15 days from before the election. 15 days before the election, the COMELEC must decide. So it has time, no? But in previous cases, the COMELEC has been timely. In the case of disqualification case of Fernando Po and Grace Po, the COMELEC decided on time. So I think they will decide on time. Thank you.
And just a follow-up question po, what do you think po about the case in the first division of the COMELEC that calls for perpetual disqualification and does not include moral turpitude?
The case in the first division, which is, there is a preliminary conference today, is under Section 25 or Rule 25 of the COMELEC Rules of Procedure, which means that the issue there is, has Bongbong Marcos been disqualified by final judgment of a court? That's the only issue. In the other case, in the second division, the issue is whether there was material misrepresentation in the COC of Bongbong Marcos. Because in the COC, you must state, you are under oath, you must state that you are eligible. That means you do not know of any disqualification against you under the law. And when Bongbong Marcos stated under oath in the COC that he was eligible, that was false because he knew that he had been convicted by the Court of Appeals of a violation of the tax code. So these are two different cases, different issues involved. The one in the second division that was filed by Father Benefe, that has been submitted for resolution. So we're just waiting for the decision of the second division because that's already submitted for resolution. The other one, on the first division under Commissioner Guanzon, there's a hearing today. There's a preliminary conference today. So that's the status. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have a question from our friends from the media. Karen Lema from Reuters. Please, you may now take the floor. Thank you.
Hi, sir. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, Justice Carpio, everyone in the panel. Happy New Year to everyone. Justice, thank you so much for this forum. Just a few clarifications. Is it correct? Had BBM served his sentence, that is the filing of the penalties, the deficiencies, 5 years from when the judgment became final, the disqualification could have been lifted under the Omnibus Election Code. But even if that happened, he still should not have been allowed to run because there is still that perpetual disqualification that accompanies the penalty of a tax violation. Is that correct? And then another justice, because I was reading some of the arguments that his camp were presenting. I believe that they raised the, if I'm not mistaken, also a Supreme Court decision about his eligibility to become the executor of his father's will. And in that ruling, I think the court did say that he's not guilty of moral turpitude because the non-filing of tax return is not a crime involving moral turpitude, and therefore is eligible to be executor of his father's will. Thank you, Justice.
Okay, on your first question, under Section 12 of the Omnibus Election Code, even if you serve your sentence, in the case of Bongbong Marcos, if he paid the fine and the surcharges and the penalties, all of them, then 5 years after that payment, he can run again because the disqualification is lifted after service of sentence, 5 years. Now, but there is a certification from the regional trial court that he has not paid the fine, and that is binding. And the Marcoses have not submitted any document at all to the second division in this first case and filed by Father Buenafe. They did not submit any document. They've been sending documents to media of a BIR payment, but they did not submit that to the COMELEC. So, in other words, they have not proven that they have served the sentence. But assuming that they have served the sentence, Bongbong has served the sentence, there is another separate disqualification under the tax code, perpetual disqualification. So that's something that can be lifted only by a presidential pardon, and none has been given to Bongbong. Now, on that case in the Supreme Court where Bongbong was being appointed as administrator of the estate of his father, and Bongbong said that he is qualified because that case where he was convicted by the trial court did not involve moral turpitude. But if you read that case, that statement of the court said the case is still pending. It has not been finally decided by the Supreme Court. So it is just an obiter, no? Because another division of the court was making a comment on a case that is still pending. So it cannot be definitive because it's premature. But if you look at it, that decision of the court said Bongbong can be administrator because he is not disqualified because there is no judgment declaring him guilty of a crime involving moral turpitude. But if you look at that, the court ordered the estate of Marcos, Ferdinand Marcos, to pay the estate tax, which now amounts to 203 billion pesos. And Bongbong Marcos, the administrator of the estate, refuses to pay. So you can see the moral turpitude there. The court has been proven wrong because the court said, no, he is not guilty of moral turpitude. He's upright. That means he will follow the order of the court when the tax is ordered to be paid, because in estate proceedings, the number one priority is to pay the government, to pay the estate taxes before anyone can get paid, before any creditor can get paid, and before any heir can receive his share, before any children of Marcos Sr. could receive any inheritance, the estate tax must first be paid. And the Supreme Court said, we believe that Bongbong Marcos can be administrator because he's not guilty of moral turpitude. He will be a good administrator. He will do his duty as an administrator. But it turned out he did not. Up to today, he refuses to pay the estate tax of the estate of his father, despite being appointed by the court and upheld by the Supreme Court to be the administrator. So that just shows that in fact, the court was wrong in saying he possessed moral uprightness, and that he will do his duty as court-appointed administrator. He has not done his duty because he has not paid the estate tax. He refuses to pay any part of the estate tax.
Right. Thank you, Justice. Sir, sorry, just a quick follow-up lang, sir. Sir, on the issue of the tax evasion, I know the RTC convicted him of non-payment and as well as non-filing of income tax returns, but the Court of Appeals acquitted him of the non-payment, but the Court of Appeals upheld the guilty verdict on the non-filing of the income tax return. Sir, the non-filing of income tax return, does that also still constitute tax evasion? Can you actually call it a tax evasion conviction? And since the Court of Appeals already acquitted him of non-payment, can people still invoke that conviction by the RTC in these pleadings to disqualify BBM, or it should have been just based on the 2001 Court of Appeals ruling, which, as you said, have become final after the Supreme Court granted BBM's request to withdraw the appeal?
You see, the CA decision said that acquitted him of non-payment of income tax. But at the same time, it said in the fallo, he must pay deficiency income tax. So there's really inconsistency. The Court of Appeals acquitted him of non-payment, but at the same time ordered him to pay deficiency income tax. It's really contradictory. Of course, the court said he did not file income tax return. That's clear. But under the tax code, whether you did not pay the income tax or you did not file the income tax, the result is the same. If you are convicted of either, you are perpetually disqualified, because the tax code does not make a distinction between moral turpitude and non-moral turpitude. Whether your conviction is for non-payment of a tax or non-filing, just non-filing of income tax return, it's the same, because it says any crime under the tax code will result in any crime. If you are convicted of any crime under the tax code, you will suffer perpetual disqualification to hold public office. Thank you.
Thank you, Justice.
Okay. Marinette Retona of Vera Files is next. Marinette.
Thank you po. Good afternoon po, Justice Carpio. You said earlier that Marcos should have been disqualified from running in any government office starting August 8, 2001. But this does not erase the fact that he served a number of terms po as a public officer following that, and that the COMELEC allowed it. And this is one of the arguments of the Marcoses camp. How do you think po will this factor play into COMELEC's judgment? And in a situation na mapapatunayan pong dapat nga po ay disqualified siya, will there be any other cases possible to be filed against him because of this?
Well, that has already been ruled upon by the Supreme Court in the case of Halusos, because Halusos was convicted of robbery. It became final, and he was elected, and he served. And later on, when he ran again, he was questioned. And the court said, it doesn't matter if you were able to evade. Whether if you ran and you were elected before, you served, that does not erase the fact that you are disqualified, and you will still be disqualified. That's settled already.
Okay. Okay. Any follow-up question, Marinette?
Okay na po. Thank you.
Okay. So Miss Sherlyn Rivera also has a question. Sherlyn. Okay, I will just read her question. But why did the COMELEC allow him to run in the first place if he is not qualified?
Well, first of all, nobody complained to the COMELEC, And the COMELEC probably didn't know also. And in fact, nobody knew about this except one day I read one of the Viber messages, and I read there that, oh, Bongbong was convicted already. And so I was intrigued. I checked because I automatically knew that if you've been convicted of a tax evasion, you would be disqualified. And it turns out that he was indeed convicted. I didn't know before last year, late last year, that he had been convicted of tax evasion by the RTC and non-filing of income tax return by the Court of Appeals. So nobody probably knew, nobody objected, so he was able to get through it. But that doesn't mean that he's already qualified. That isn't a ground to lift the disqualification. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Justice Tony. Next is from ABS-CBN, Mr. Adrian Ayali. Adrian?
Hi, sir.
Hello.
Follow up lang po dun sa presidential pardon. Yun nga, if ever is given presidential pardon, will it solve everything or meron pa rin kasing iba pa rin kumbaga bala against Bongbong Marcos?
Well, if he is pardoned today, so the effect of pardon is to wipe out, assuming it's an absolute pardon, it will wipe out all the penalties. But his problem is he cannot, the COC that he filed is void from the very start. Because the Supreme Court has ruled if it's falsified, if there's a material misrepresentation, that is void ab initio. So that certificate of candidacy cannot be revived. He has to file a new certificate of candidacy, but the deadline is over. That's the problem there. If he's given an absolute pardon today, okay, the crime is wiped out, the penalties are wiped out, he is restored. So he can run again, but he has to file a new COC that is valid. But the deadline is over. That's the big problem there. Thank you.
So dead end po talaga, Justice.
Yeah, unless they reopen it after the president pardons him, absolutely. They reopen the filing of the COC, then pwede.
Thank you, Justice.
Thank you.
Okay, from our FB live feed po, what about daw po, Justice Tony, the argument, babasahin ko lang po, that since the penalty of perpetual disqualification was not included in the RTC or case decision, then he should not be disqualified because the court was silent on it.
Well, the disqualification did not be in the judgment itself because the law is deemed written into the decision. Because if you look at the tax code, it says if you are guilty of tax evasion or non-filing, the penalty is you are a penalty of imprisonment or fine or both. Period. It does not mention disqualification, but that disqualification is another section of the tax code that will operate independently of the judgment of the court. So there is nothing there it says in the tax code that the decision must impose the disqualification. It is the disqualification is imposed by operation of law. Thank you.
Okay. We have another question po. This one is addressed to Attorney Calleja from Judith and Lino. Attorney Calleja, this is the question. I'll just read it po. What type of accountability should we expect from the COMELEC for allowing Marcos Jr. to run for public office after being declared perpetually disqualified from running for public office? What type of accountability daw po should we expect from the COMELEC?
Well, let's put it this way. Thank you for the question. Let's put it this way. As already said baka naman na they didn't know or nobody knew prior to this filing. But let us trust that the COMELEC, once they have already been given this knowledge that such incident or such conviction is existing against Ferdinand Marcos Jr., that the COMELEC will do the right thing and implement the law. I would just like to correct the statement a while ago of Justice Tony being on the first division. The preliminary conference will be tomorrow morning, Justice. So just to clarify, it will be tomorrow morning at the COMELEC, both face-to-face and meron ding online. So we can participate either face-to-face or online. So dun sa mga susunod, maybe you can follow it from there. And whatever is the decision, kami naman po as litigants, as lawyers and members of the bar, we will follow the decision of the court. And if we are not happy with the decision of the COMELEC, whoever is not happy, we can always go up to the Supreme Court to question it further. Thank you.
Okay po. Follow-up questions po, Attorney Howie, from two followers on Facebook. Bakit po parang ang tagal ng desisyon ng COMELEC sa DQ daw po ni Marcos Jr.? And according to Hector Fanesher, babasahin ko lang po, what can we do to expedite the DQ cases in the COMELEC? Thank you.
I think okay naman. I think they're on track. I believe that there's still time, and I believe that these cases will be finished just before the retirement of the 3 commissioners. No, there's 2 commissioners and 1 chairman that's retiring in February 2 or February of 2002. So that's next month. So I'm sure that, and I pray that the commissioners, including the chairman, if it goes en banc, will hopefully put this issue, close this issue with the COMELEC prior to their retirement in February. Kasi otherwise, then we would have a problem because we would only have 4 commissioners sitting unless the president will immediately appoint 2 new commissioners and 1 chairman. Then again, just to put it in perspective, we are also hoping that since the president has already said that he wants a fair, honest election, sana po hindi naman nagpapangalan ng kahit na sino ang isang bayan, but sana ho we are hoping na kung sinong ilalagay o iupo ni Presidente Duterte na bagong commissioner at chairman, hindi naman po based on loyalty because of Davao or San Beda or Taliones connection, but really on the merit. Sana marami na mga tao sa COMELEC na from the ranks na talagang nagsilbi sa COMELEC, at marami rin naman magigiting na abogado at citizens na Pilipino na pwede magsilbi sa COMELEC other than having Davao or San Beda or Taliones connection. Salamat po.
Okay po. Thank you so much, Attorney Howie. Next question po addressed to Justice Carpio and also to Attorney Calleja. Ang sabi po niya, sa madaling sabi, nakalusot si BBM. Ngayon po, ito daw po yung tanong niya. What happens if Marcos Jr. is declared disqualified but his name is already printed on the ballot? What are the rules daw po governing in this case?
If he is disqualified, then all his votes will be stray ballots. Hindi po bibilangin ang boto ni Marcos Jr. kung siya po ay disqualified, and it would not count. That simple po. So sinasabi ko na rin na siguro dun sa mga botante natin, isipin nyo na lang at make sure na your vote will count, and do not vote for somebody who is disqualified. And I don't know if Justice Tony would like to add from that.
Yeah, I think the question was, what if he's disqualified? What if he is qualified but his name is not included in the ballot?
It's
I
the
don't think
other way
that will
around
happen.
If
he's disqualified and his name is still in the ballot, all the votes are stray votes, will not be counted. I mean, that has happened many times before.
Okay. Thank you very much po, Attorney Howie and Justice Carpio. Next, we have Pocholo Concepcion of Manila Times. I will just read this question po. You said in your in a previous talk that if the COMELEC decides to disqualify or cancel Bongbong Marcos COC and the case is elevated to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court affirms it, will it take President Duterte to finally decide? What are your comments? Then another question, how strong are the tax evasion cases filed against Bongbong Marcos? Thank you.
Well, the tax evasion cases have been decided already. I mean, he has been convicted already. I mean, we cannot talk about how strong those cases are in terms of violation of the tax code because they have been decided already. The decision of the COMELEC division is appealable to the NBank. I mean, the MR is considered the appeal to the NBank. And under the Omnibus Election Code, the COMELEC and bank must decide on disqualification cases under Section 78 of the Omnibus Election Code, must decide within 15 days before the election. 15 days before the election. So there's a deadline. And the NBank has to decide the Section 78 petition 15 days before election day. So there's still time for the Supreme Court to act because the decision of the COMELEC and bank becomes final and executory after 5 days. If the losing party cannot get a TRO from the Supreme Court, then the decision of the COMELEC and bank becomes final and executory, or executory. It is implemented right away. So assuming that Bongbong Marcos loses in the NBank, he has 5 days to get a TRO. If he does not get the TRO, COMELEC can implement its decision disqualifying him.
Thank you. Justice Tony, just a follow-up po from Pocholo Concepcion from the Tribune po pala. So, Justice Carpio, this is for you. Do you personally believe Duterte can influence COMELEC to DQ or cancel Bongbong Marcos Jr. COC?
Well, I cannot divine the sentiments of the members of the COMELEC. They make their own decisions, so I really cannot say that one way or another that they will follow or not follow. I mean, we have to just assume that they will perform their functions pursuant to their mandate under the Constitution.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'd just like to add from that the COMELEC is an independent constitutional body. We trust that the commissioners will remain independent, and we believe that they will serve the people and the institution well. So we trust that they would do their best in their position. Salamat po.
Thank you very much, Attorney Howie. Our next question is addressed to Father Albert Alejo. Father Bert? You're still with us, Father Bert? Yeah. Okay. Here's your question, Father Bert. It seems that the battle now in the disqualification cases is a legal battle, and the lawyers are the key players. What about we who are non-lawyers? What is the role that we need to play in this issue? Thank you.
Good question. Kasi nga, actually, doon mismo sa legal question, ang pinapasok ay moral turpitude. Kaya hindi lang ito basta legal. Kasi nga ang pinag-uusapan yung pagkatao, yung katauhan, morality ng mga involved dito. So let me just make it clear. I think the non-lawyers, all of us are involved here because this is a question of humanity, being human and being correct, being just, being fair, and being honest, being not liars. Yun ang pinag-uusapan dito. Kaya nga, maganda yung approach na nananawagan tayo sa COMELEC na maging tunay, totoo. Ganon. Merong batas na sinusunod, ito yung pinopokus ng mga lawyers, pero yung pagtingin sa batas at ang pagsunod sa batas, nasa ano na ito morality. Kaya nananawagan tayo sa kabayanihan ng mga COMELEC members. Pero ako gusto kong may idagdag. Nananawagan din ako sa mga miyembro ng pamilya, ng mga miyembro ng COMELEC. Yung mga nanay, yung mga tatay, yung mga anak. Sabihin mo, mga anak, sabihin mo, Dad, Mom, pinag-uusapan yan sa klase. Sana naman ayusin yung decision. This is now a question of conscience which will enrich our appreciation of the law. So yun po, sana hindi lang ito basta legal. Legal is the basic, but deep within is the moral issue. Are we following our conscience? And can we face the Lord with all these decisions? Thank you very much.
Just a follow-up question, Paring Bert. VP Lenny is trailing behind the surveys. Can you comment on her chances of catching up or overtaking Marcos Jr.?
Sa totoo lang hindi tayo sigurado dyan. Sa totoo lang. Kasi ang lakas ng influensya sa TikTok, sa YouTube, ganyan. At tapos yung mga paniwala na mamimigay ng pera, ng ginto, ganyan. Pero sa totoo lang, sa quality, I'm observing the quality of the enthusiasm, the dynamism, the self-propelling movement. It's a social movement, it's a cultural struggle. There is a very big chance. Yung pangalawa, yung iba kasi tahimik lang din Para bang pakipot. Pakipot pa, gusto naman talaga. So nananawagan ako sa mga faith-based organizations. Lumabas na, lumantad na. May prinsipyo, ilabas na natin yan. Hindi yung pakyeme pa. Huwag na tayo masyadong magpakipot. Okay? Kaya may chance, malaking chance.
Okay, thank you very much po, Paring Bert. It's already 10:53. Maybe we can accommodate one more question. Ito po, merong nag-message sa atin, Jen Galvez from Vanguard Radio Network. Jen, are you here? You can ask your question po to Justice Tony. Jen? Okay.
Good morning. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. Good morning, Justice. Good morning, sir, and to the rest of those present here. Just want to ask a quick question. What do you think would be the scenario if the political scenario if President Duterte suddenly endorses Isko Moreno?
Okay.
Well, I really do not know because that's speculative. I wouldn't want to comment on that. Of course, it can happen, but it's very speculative. I mean, I would like to limit my comments on factual and legal issues. Thank you.
Attorney Howie, you want to add something?
We share the same statement as Justice Tony. Let's leave it to the president, and whatever happens, then let's see. For now, let's focus on maybe our attention on the case as pending. It would be difficult also to state anything about the case being pending in the COMELEC, but rest assured that we will continue guarding and making sure that the issues will be brought out and resolved immediately.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much also, Jen. Our last question po is coming from an FB user. Ito po. In several comments daw po from the supporters of BBM, they claimed that they will hold people power against COMELEC once COMELEC issues judgment not in favor of BBM. Question po, is this possible to oust a commissioner by people power or protest? Addressed to Justice Tony and to Attorney Howie po. Thank you.
Well, we have freedom of expression in this country. If they do not agree with the decision of the COMELEC, one way or the other, they can go to the streets and demonstrate. That's allowed. I mean, we cannot stop that. That's part of freedom of expression. But the only way you can remove a sitting constitutional officer like a COMELEC commissioner is through impeachment. And you have to go through that process. And you're free to file your complaint with the House of Representatives to start an impeachment process. That's part of your right as a citizen. But I do not think that just because you demonstrate on the street, a sitting commissioner would resign or would be ousted from his office. Thank you.
For us naman, I would just like to say na as part of the litigants and lawyers in the case, whatever happens, hindi naman po kami magpro-protesta, although we will as Justice Tony already said, we will abide, we will respect whoever's decision, whether it's the people, whether they would like to protest. But kami po, we will just go through the legal process, which means whoever is not satisfied with the decision can do an MR with the in-bank and then later on bring it to the Supreme Court if you're still not happy with the decision. Pero po, sa tingin po namin, maganda po yung kasong dinalantad natin sa COMELEC, malakas at sa tingin ko po, mabibigyan ng tamang resolution and we trust that the COMELEC will make the proper and right decision soonest. I'm thinking baka in the next, hopefully the second division can come out kasi pending na sila since December 20. So hopefully it can come out soon with a favorable decision on our side. Salamat po.
Thank you very much, Attorney Howie. Speaking of litigants po, no, so there's a comment from one of the litigants, one of the petitioners of the disqualification cases, Dr. Romel Bautista. He said that the COMELEC's job is to accept certification of candidacies and facilitate orderly and fair elections. It has no capability nor mandate to investigate each candidate's past criminal records. It is incumbent on the candidate to be forthright and honest when it comes to his or her past. From Romel Bautista po iyon. Okay po, so parting shots. We will now ask our dearest guests to deliver their messages, short messages, parting shots. Let's begin with Attorney Howie to be followed by Father Albert, then finally Justice Tony Carpio. Attorney Howie, parting shots.
Yes, again, thank you sa inyong lahat. Ito po ang simula again. Happy New Year. This would be the start again of our Tapatan, where we would like to thresh out all issues, no? Especially coming up with the May election. So salamat po sa inyong lahat. Happy New Year. At with regards to our case, again, I'd like to remind na meron pre-con tomorrow. I think this has already been given in the news. So alam naman po ng mga media dito. So I think we just hold on. Trust po tayo sa independence and fairness ng COMELEC at ng mga commissioner. Tayo po ay nananalig na gagawin po nila ang tama. Salamat po. Magandang umaga po.
Thank you very much, Attorney Howie. Paring Bert?
Nagpapasalamat ako sa lahat. Justice Carpio, saludo. Howie, talagang walang kupas, walang atrasan. Saludo po. At nananawagan ako sa ating mga kababayan na tuloy-tuloy po yung sana yung gawin nating pag-aaral. Yun isang bayan ay nagpapaliwanag. Hindi lang basta nakikipagtalo, nagpapaliwanag. At ginagamit po yung isip, ginagamit yung batas at ang moralidad. Nananawagan tayo sa konsyensya, sa kultura, sa batas. Sana po lahat tayo ay mag-aral pa. Isa na po ako doon. Kaya ako nakikinig sa mga ganito, ay parang ang dami ko pang hindi alam, gusto ko pang matuto. Nananawagan ako sa lahat na tulong-tulong po tayo, magbayanihan para harapin yung mga totoong issue para makapag-decision din tayo ng maayos. Happy New Year po. Sa kabila ng lahat, may pag-asa po.
Thank you very much, Paring Bert. And finally, Justice Carpio.
Thank you, JP. The disqualification case against Bongbong Marcos is actually part of our democratic and legal process. This is not the first time that this has happened. The disqualification case was filed against Fernando Poe when he ran. He won in the COMELEC and he won in the Supreme Court, and we were able to elect a president. In the case of Grace Poe, she lost in the division in the COMELEC, she lost in the en-banc, and she won in the Supreme Court, and we elected our president. So this is really part of the democratic electoral process that we have, and we should look at it this way. Let's trust our institutions. Let's trust the COMELEC. Let's trust the Supreme Court. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Justice Tony. Ayan po, busog na busog po tayo ngayon sa mga ideas, no, na ating natutunan ngayong araw. At dyan po nagtatapos ang ating Tapatan Isang Bayan. Maraming salamat po sa nakilahok, sa mga nagtanong, sa ating mga kaibigan sa media. Thank you very much. Ito po si Attorney JP Calyaha na nagbabating Happy New Year at maraming salamat sa inyong lahat.
Panahon na ng pagpili, panahon na ng halalan.
Madami namang kandidato, madaming mukha at pangalan.
Sino kaya ang bagay sa ating bansa? Hindi lamang forma at salita. Sino o sino kaya?
At sana kahit na sinong manalo, pagkatapos ng bilangan, sana naman ang panalo ay taong bayan.
Sino kayang mananalo at magiging totoo
Sa pagnanais ng taong umunlad sa madaling panahon. Sino man siya, pag-asa kaya ang dala. Sana naman, sana siya'y tumira tapat sa bansa.
at sana kahit na sinong manalo pagkatapos ng bilangan, sana naman ang panalo ay taong bayan. La 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 la. Sana naman isipin ang kapakanan ng mga mamamayan, maging gabay sa lipunan.